Welcome back, Mosaic Souls, to... I am so excited about today's episode because I've just been getting divine downloads. And so today I really wanted to talk about the importance of art and why I choose to be an artist. And I really want to unpack this a lot. But today I wanted to talk about the importance and meaning behind art. And I want to first thank Xavier Ramey for his speech on this. It really sparked the topic that has been this topic, which has been really sitting with me for years. And so I want to talk about the importance and meaning behind art and why I choose to be an artist. So if you see me looking down, once again, I've texted myself a bunch of notes because I don't want to miss the key points of why this is so important. And so number one, why I choose to be an artist is really, it's a calling. It's not really a choice. Like if you're an artist like me, being an artist is sort of like a calling. It's like being a shaman. You don't necessarily choose to be a shaman. It's something that you're sort of born into. And so it's sort of like your destiny. And oftentimes you can choose to ignore it to your own peril. So the peril most of the time would just be an unfulfilled life, or always feeling like something is missing from your life because you're not listening or heeding the call of your soul. And so a lot of times too, because as an artist, I've always been getting visions of random things, hearing songs in my head, having dreams of art and music and things that I've created, films, all kinds of stuff, right? Like it's not necessarily a choice. It's something that's been, low-key haunting me ever since I was a little girl. So I think it's just a calling. And so that's why I choose to be an artist. I choose to heed the call, the judgment card in the tarot, right? When you think of the tarot deck, I choose to heed the call instead of ignoring the call, right? So that's one. Number two is the most juiciest reason of all, right? And I have a whole long list of things that I really can't wait to talk about, which is art in its various forms. And when I use the word art, I'm using it in its a blanket term for all artistry, performing arts or fine arts, all of the above, right? So when I'm using the word art in this video, I'm talking about all art forms, okay? So art is revolutionary. It's catalyzing, mindset shifting, it's viewpoint changing, healing, inspiring, wayfinding, guiding, confronting, and so much more. So art is so, all encompassing in so many ways, right? So with society, which Xavier talked about in his speech, check him out on Instagram. But he was talking about, why, governments and other people have a tendency to attack artists first is because art can be very catalyzing and confronting and very, in your face, or silently create a revolution, And so with society, you have the privilege of sort of siloing yourself off from aspects of life that don't really suit your programming, right? So if we think about this matrix holographic reality that we live in, right, there's different programs that are constantly running in different timelines and things of that nature, right? Many times people can sort of shut themselves off from different parts of society. Like if you don't want, like Xavier was talking about in his speech, if you don't want to learn about, gay people or gay rights, or, about this type of people, or about this people and their sect of thinking and their way of doing things, or this religious ideology, or this philosophy, and you can just shut yourself off and not listen to it. But with art, it has sort of like a silent way, or even a loud way of sort of being in your face, and asking you to confront or question your reality in a way. Art has a way of seeping into your spirit, right? Awakening your soul and or heavily influencing your subconscious mind, right? And you see this in filmmaking with the use of different camera angles and movements to imbue meaning, right? So when you think of something like in film, you see them shooting down at something that makes the person or the subject seem smaller, versus when you shoot up at something that makes that person look larger than life, even if the person is only like 4 feet tall, right? And that's the power of different camera angles and movements, right? And like different things with our eyes in filmmaking imbue different meaning. And that's why film is one of the many arts forms, has a way of really influencing the way that we see our lives and really programming our subconscious minds. Another way is visual art that can convey symbology, right? and that can ignite a fire within you, right? When you think of sigils and sigil magic and how you can utilize that to reprogram your subconscious mind, art is the same way. It's, you know, it's meaning being shown in a visual format, right? You know, and the meaning could be as simple as a beautiful landscape that can imbue peace and a sense of tranquility, to the most like horrific, you know, things of humanity that asks you to confront, you know, this dark side of humanity. Or it can be a range from various different things, right? Or abstraction or representation. When you think of like artists like Kehinde Wiley, which is one of my favorite artists, or different other artists that just bring about so many different messages, right? And then when you think of music that can soothe or charge you up, right? Music has the power to heal and soothe you, or give you that beat to like rock your body and shake up your, you know, your your root chakra, right? Shake up your root and sacral chakras, right? And so when you think about how powerful art and in the various other different forms of art that I didn't even mention, from fashion to all these other different forms, photography and things of that nature, it has the power to really catalyze you, right? And so it's really powerful to see it in that way. So art forms in its various different forms has the way of influencing you positively or negatively, as you've heard. Okay, so the third reason is that I've always internally been an activist, right? From early in my late teens to, from late in my late teens to early 20s, like I've raised money for my friend in Uganda who is a doctor who would take care of, what are they called? Orphan children who had AIDS and things of that nature. And so raising money for him and various different fundraisers that I've done in the past, as well as raising awareness for child sex slavery and sex slavery in America and in Atlanta at large as well. And so I've always been a low-key activist and had qualms about things in the world that I wanted to change. But as I got older and got wiser, I realized that one, I didn't really want to be out in them streets picketing and all that other stuff. And two, I'd much rather, you know, take a step back from activism and a very active role to one that I don't necessarily need to save the world, but my way of changing the world is to be a catalyst for others to do so, right? Because there's a part of me that really enjoys peace and spaciousness and the desire to create. And so activism has a way of sort of disturbing that. And so I knew that as an artist, you know, I can be a way or a catalyst for change for others to do the type of work that I used to try to do in my early 20s. And so it's my way of choosing to be an activist, right? Choosing an uncommon path that would probably have my ancestors rolling in their grave, you know, especially like my Trinidadian side of the family and American side, where, you know, being an artist is very sort of unconventional, and you don't do that because there's this perceived lack of stability, you know, especially during that time, you know, in general. But thanks to, I think this is one of the biggest ways that I can pay homage to my ancestors, because of all of their sacrifices and things that they placed in, you know, lives that they've laid down and sacrifices they've made. I have the luxury, time and space and energy to actually pursue my heart's calling. I think that's the biggest honor that you can give to your ancestors, is to do what your heart and soul came to do, especially in this society, you know, where there's definitely still oppression. Don't get it twisted, but it's not as much oppression as they faced, and where it was always chronic survival mode, and where you didn't have space to really pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams? Especially not as a Black, brown, or colored person, Nubian, nine-ether being, right? Like, that's not a thing, you know? And so now that I have the privilege to do so, I think it's one of the biggest forms of activism for me to be an artist, you know? And through the various art forms, I can share what I believe in without having to picket or riot or tear down governmental structures directly, right? Or, you know, societal structures directly. Like, I can be a catalyst and a symbol for uplifting and the betterment of humanity in my own unique way, right? And hopefully without the need for bloodshed, but whatever. All that is to say. So that's really why I choose to be an artist, and the importance of art in the world. So I hope that like that breakdown kind of breaks it down in a very digestible and understandable way, and why art is so important. Oftentimes because we're in this sort of end of the world type energy, and all hell is breaking loose, right? Which has always been breaking loose. Now it's just more prevalent in society. This stuff has been going on. Oppression and the various forms of mind control and the various forms of ways that it shows up in our society has always been going on. It's just now more prevalent, I think, because of social media and the various different media forms, the truth leaking out in its various different forms, And so, yeah, that's why I choose to be an artist, and why it's super important, because like I said before, art can be healing, it can be catalyzing, it can be confronting, it can awaken you, it can, ignite change, it can initiate change, it can be, inspiring, wayfinding, guiding, it can be so many different ways and different forms. And so I think it's so important, if you are an artist or you choose to heed that call of your soul, to be continuing to make art, and it doesn't always necessarily have to have a charged message. Painting a landscape to me is just as revolutionary as painting, people who are picketing and rioting, or, showing the bloodshed of, your forefathers, or things that are going on traditionally right now, not traditionally, but generally right now. And so I think it's very important to as artists, to step into that more fully, and to create the whatever your art form is, and the way that it shows up, because it's important for the world to be able to see itself. I think one of my favorite quotes that I remember hearing when I was like 18 was this quote by Nina Simone. And she always would say, there was a documentary that I watched of her a long time ago. It was on iTunes at the time. And I think she said, an artist's duty is to reflect the times. How can you be an artist and not reflect the times? As far as my concern, that's the job of an artist. And so, you do that and take that medicine and do it with what you will. But it's all, as an artist, that's the beauty of being an artist, that you can interpret that and take that and bring to life what, however that looks like for you, and truly we are all artists. You don't necessarily have to be in the performing and fine arts to be an artist. Like, as a creator of your own reality, you are an art. Life is art. Your life is your masterpiece. But this message is more specifically for my creative artists, my performing and fine artists, and things of that nature, because it's a lot of times art seems to be the first thing that wants to be kicked out the door. They take it out of schools, and they take it out of learning these things. And art is really what helps to drive culture, what creates culture and ways of being, and it goes alongside culture. It's things that we see on the pyramids, right? And in the tombs and in the walls that tell us about, our history and ancestry and what came before us, so that we can learn, right? And so I think it's very important that as artists that we continue to do the work that we have come here to do, and heed that call, because it's important. Art has always been important. It's revolutionary, it's changing, and I've said all the reasons why it's important. So hopefully you understand that. Hopefully you rock with it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be respectful, or you will get blocked and deleted. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm about to go make some art. Go create. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm enjoying this journey of stepping more fully into my divinity. And hopefully this is inspiring to you as well. Feel free to always flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. You are divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you've come to explore and experience while on this planet. So remember, what you conceive is what you'll receive, and what you expect is what you'll get, and however you feel is what will become real for you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys tomorrow. Peace of night. If you resonate with this video and my work, then consider becoming a patron at mosaicsoulsworld.com. Thanks to my current patrons, and I hope to see you guys on the inside. Catch you next week. Peace, love, and light.